This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Baruchim Abayim. We're continuing. Today is our, we're continuing in Iyun Shiur on Masechta Yevamos Daf Pei. Today's Shiur is dedicated by Rav Nosson Weldler, Umishpachta Le'iloi Nishmas, Paro Bas Chana, who was Neftaras this past week. She's in B'toich Shiva, Shama Sham Aliyah, Shiva Meilas Yosher for her whole family, B'suras Tova, Simchas Anachas, Abiyas Gold Tzedek. Okay, so I want to speak about two inyanim on Daf Pei. The first one is Tosfos. Tosfos, Divrei Hamas Chol Nasa Sris L'Mafreya. We have a machlokes if somebody ate chelev between 12 and 18. And basically they did not grow hairs, and then they had simanei sris. So when the simanei sris come, do we say that, okay, retroactively this person was a sris already from the time of 12? Because usually when a girl turns 12 or a boy turns 13, they are considered no longer a minor. They're a gadol. The only thing is, typically they have the two pubic hairs that show they're a gadol. This person never had pubic hairs, so we're not sure. Maybe they'll grow hairs late, and then they'll be a late bloomer, they mature late. Or maybe they'll turn out to be a sris. So when they turn out to be a sris, do we say l'mafreya, they were a sris from the beginning? Or do we say no, until they actually display signs of being a sris, they remain a katan? So Rav says you become a sris or mafreya. Shmuel says you're a katan at that time. What's the nafkamina? L'chayra, the nafkamina is, the Gemara says, if the person ate chelev, whether you get malchus or not, or whether you get malchus or not. So Tosfos is bothered by the following question. Tosfos is bothered, okay, if you become a sris l'mafreya, does that mean you get malchus? So Tosfos says, yeah. V'loki al chelev sha'achal. You'll get malchus for the chelev that you ate. So Tosfos' question is, why would you get malchus? What do we tell the guy? Don't eat the chelev, because you're going to be chayiv malchus. What do you mean you'll be chayiv malchus? You don't even know if I'm a gadol or not. So that's what it's called, Hasroas Safeik. Then we know you cannot incur a penalty, a punishment, unless you're warned. And you cannot be warned Hasroas Safeik. So therefore, the question is, how could we give malchus to this person, but what did you warn him exactly? You warned him, don't eat from it, because maybe you'll get malchus. That's Hasroas Safeik. By the way, I'll give you an example. There's a shaila, abortion. Is it murder? Is it not murder? So the Mizrahi and Chumash says, avada, abortion is murder. So then why don't we give capital punishment? Because you can't warn someone, don't perform an abortion, maybe the child will not be a ben kayama. So it's not, so even though it's ritzicha, and there's a chiyuv misa, but we can't warn the person. So here also, what do you mean you become a sris l'mafreya? But it's Hasroas Safeik. Says Tosfos, the loy choshev Hasroas Safeik, af agav de b'shas hasra haya Safeik shema yavi sa'areis kaidem yirches. Even though before, at the time of the hasra, it's a Safeik, maybe the kid will grow hairs, and then he'll turn out not to be a sris, he'll turn out to be a late blooming gadol. Says Tosfos, the hashta mia igloi lemafreya shahaya gadol b'shas hasra. Now, when he grows simanei sris, it's huvrar davar lemafreya. Retroactively, it demonstrates that he was a gadol at the time of the hasra. Okay, so that's the that's Tosfos' question. L'chayra it's Hasroas Safeik, and the answer is, after the fact that he develops simanei sris, retroactively, it's been determined that he was a gadol at the time of hasra. Now, b'chlal, it's impossible to understand what Tosfos is talking about. What do you mean, groloi milsa l'mafreya? The bottom line, you can't warn someone definitively, don't do this because you're going to get punished, when he might not get punished. When it turns out, if he grows hairs, then it'll turn out that he's not a sris. Oh, but now he didn't grow hairs and he turned out to be so. Okay, very nice. But how does this make it not Hasroas Safeik? What do you mean, Igloi Milsal Mafreya? But Hasroas Safeik is anytime you can't warn somebody definitively. Tosus is bothered. Why, if you, let's say we have two people, we don't know who the father is, and we tell the kid, don't hit both of them. Don't hit this one, it might be your father. Don't hit this one, it might be your father. Even though at the end of the day, if he hits both of them, he'll have hit his father. So we say he's not chayiv misa. Why not? Igloi Milsal Mafreya, that he hit his father. So he says, V'loidami lehika azeh v'chazar v'hika azeh, da'af la'achar shehika shneim, because even after he hit both of them, lo yadia eza aviv. He still doesn't know which one is the father. You're right. At the end of the day, he ended up hitting both of them, but still, he still doesn't know which one is the father. But in this situation, at the end of the day, we know that he was a sris. So if we know he was a sris, we warned him, don't eat this, because a Jew cannot eat chelev. But still it's very unclear, since he might end up being a katan. It's true he wasn't, but he could have been. So how could we be mechayev malchus? It's Hasroas Safeik. What exactly does Tosus mean? So I want to share with you Pnei Yeshua. This Pnei Yeshua appears in Masechta Kedushin in something called Kunshas Achron. At the end of the Masechta, Pnei Yeshua has like a Madura Basra, sort of. Okay, so look at this Pnei Yeshua. V'nira midavreim. From Tosus it appears, this is a Tosus in Kedushin. Even though at the time he violated an aver, we didn't know he was a gadol. We still give malchus l'mafreya. Umikri shaper hasra. It's still called the hasra b'chayei gavna. The giloi milsa ba'almahu, because the information that determines that he is a gadol is just a giloi milsa. Kamashakasav Tosus lahedya in Yevamos daf pei b'divar hamaschal na'aseh sris l'mafreya. So the Pnei Yeshua quotes our Tosus in Yevamos that we say retroactively we've determined that he was a sris. The only thing is, in the Mishnah Lamelech he says that from Tosus in Masechta Nida Perak Yotzi Doifen Daf Mem Zayin, it's not mashma this. Imkein lefi dvarav divrei Tosus soisim zeh. That's the question of the Mishnah Lamelech. By the way, if you want to go to the Mishnah Lamelech's kever, all you have to do is come with us to Turkey in a few weeks. Anyway, or you could just eat turkey. But that's the Mishnah Melech's question. The Mishnah Melech's question is, there's a Tosus in Masechta Nida that seems to say that Huvra Davar L'Mafreya does not get you out of the issue of Hasroas Safeik. So listen to how the Pnei Yeshua learns this. Amnam, here's the line. This is a very important Yesod B'chlal. Amnam. La'niyas da'ti yesh liyashiv. Deloy dami. Demasha kosvu b'Yevamos. Here you have Pnei Yeshua in Kedushin. He's explaining our Tosus. That which Tosus says in Yevamos, to have a shaper hasra b'chai gavna, v'loy mikri hasra safek, hainu, lefi she'en ha-safek b'guf ha-yisr. There's no safek in the entity of the yisr. In other words, is it asr for a Jew to eat chelev? Yes. Is it asr for this person to eat chelev? So I would have said, maybe not, because it might be a katan. So this is, I think, what he means. What he means is, no Jew is allowed to eat a chelev. Even a katan cannot eat chelev. It's just, if a katan eats chelev, we're not going to punish him. But a katan has an isser of eating chelev. So there's no safek legabi the isser. The safek is whether we could give the penalty, but not regarding the prohibition. It's a vade warning. We could say, don't do this. What do you mean, don't do this? But I might be a katan. Okay, you still can't do it. We can't say definitively, you'll be chayiv misa. In other words, in the case that I gave of the Mizrahi by abortion, we could tell the person, we cannot tell the person, don't do this, and say, why not? Maybe the child won't be viable, and if the child's not viable, there's no isser of killing a non-viable child. I mean, there's an isser, but that's not ritzicha. But here, either way you look at it, there's a vadai isser of eating chelev. The Safeik is only on the application of the penalty. We warned him for sure, al toichal chelev. Even though we don't know if he is capable of being punished, that's not relevant to the warning. We never found in any place in Shasha it's not necessary that the Eidim have to testify that the one who they warned is liable for punishment. The Sanhedrin will investigate this. Retroactively, it turns out that the guy was a sris, but the warning was a vadai warning. So that's how the Pnei Yoshua learns Pshat and Tosfos. The reason why it's not Hasroas Safeik is because either way there's an Isser, the suffix only on the Baroinshim. I think this is very difficult, Pshat and Tosfos. I saw this question in this Choveres of Daf Hashavua, but they ask it as a Ktsas Kasha. So what's Tosfos bothered by then? But why in the case if we say, don't hit Pliny, don't hit Pliny, so why don't we say Giloi Mil Saba Alma over there? What do you mean? Over there, of course it's Hasroas Safeik, because we cannot warn him and say, we cannot warn and say, this is definitely Asur, because it might not be your father. Like, what's Tosfos bothered by? If the Pshat in Tosfos is that the reason why it's not Hasroas Safeik is because either way it's Asur. The shaila, though, is if you're a bar oinshim, and that's something Sanhedrin will investigate later, that's not applicable in the case of hika zeh b'chazar hika zeh. There, it might not be asur. So you say, well, for sure you were doing an isser. We could warn you, don't hit this one and don't hit that one. No, we can't. When before you hit the first one, we can't say, don't hit this one. If you hit this one, you're going to be doing an isser. Maybe not. And then after you hit the first one, we can't warn you, don't hit the second one. So Tosfos' question seems to be a little difficult. Rabbi Kiva and Chulin, though, learns Tosfos the exact same way. That the Yesod of Tosfos, by the way, it's not so pashat that a katan is not allowed to do the Aveira, it's just he's not a bar oinshin. That's a major chakira. That's a big shaila, whether is a katan not a bar isser or he's just not a bar oinshim. Iyun, the bar mitzvah series, it's like Shiur number 9 or 11, something like that, where there's a shaila about the geder of the prohibition of a katan. Okay, now I want to take you to one more Iyun on the daf here. We discussed this on Shabbos yesterday. Asi, you were asking about this. The Gemara says on 3 lines on the bottom of Rabbi Avahu that the simanim of a sris, an islandess, or an 8-month-old, you can't act upon them until they're 20 years old. So the Gemara says, can an 8-month-old live? And the Gemara says, well, he could live if we have simanim that his hair is developed and his nails are developed. But even so, Rabbi Yavo is saying, even with the simanim that he's a bar kayama, you still cannot do an amaisa until he's 20. So Rashi's bother, what exactly are we talking about? What is it that we cannot determine until the kid is 20? So Rashi says, the bottom Rashi, if you have on Daf Pei, Uben ches, shenoilad leches chadashim, ein oisem by maisa, lahachzikoi keben kayama. We cannot treat the kid as a viable kid b'shvil simanim, just because he has simanim, meaning kloimer afal pisha gamru simani sarvat siparnav, even though his hair and nails are developed. Kishenoilad afilochi layamin bar kayama, we don't say he's bar kayama. Vadai ad sheyia ben esrim shana, until he's 20 years old. So this is a very interesting sugya according to Rashi. Here you have a kid. He was born after 8 months with fully developed hair, fully developed nails. At 13 years old, he lay his bar mitzvah parsha matos maseh. He didn't even come up with air. At 14 years old, he blew 101 tkiyos. At 15, he did hagba on a 500-pound sefer Torah. But we don't know he's a ben kayama until he's turned 20. I mean, that's how Rashi learns. And the Rishonim have a major issue with Rashi. The Rishonim basically ask, wait a second. The kid's fighting in war. He's on the front lines of the battle. He's driving a tank. He's jumping out of a jet. But we don't know he's a ben kayama until he's 20. Look, Rashi says, this is the Rajba, purest Rashi. Ein oisem ma'isa beben shmoina lachzika beben kayama ad sheyeh ben esrim. V'yesh matmiyin olav dehich tal ada sheyeh ben tesha asrei v'choshim b'm shem nefel. The kid's 19 and he's still a nefel? V'oid, the Rabbi Yavahu. Let's say a Yevama. She has a kid, but the kid was born after 8 months, and the kid is 17 years old. She can't marry Lashuk. You know why? And that might not be a bar kayama. So that means every Yevama who gives birth to after 8 months has to wait 20 years until she's free. She married off her kid. Listen to this. The kid has grandchildren. The kid has children, but the woman is not free to marry. Why? Because the kid might not be a ben kayama. I guess if they're grandchildren, then she could marry. But let's say the kid, I don't know, the kid, he wrestled. He he did all kinds of activities. You cannot determine he's a ben kayama until he's 20. So the Rishonim disagree with Rashi, and they say this whole sugya of doing a maisa is not to determine he's a ben kayama. He's a vada, a ben kayama. It's to determine he's a gadol. Listen to this. Because he was born after 8, he's weaker, and therefore we say he's like a sris. We cannot determine he's a gadol until 20. That's how the other Rajba and the Ritva learn the sugya. Based on Rabbeinu Chananel. Rabbeinu Chananel va'arayv zal pirshu simone ben shmoina koloimar ben shmoina. An 8-month, a kid who was born after 8 months of pregnancy, shehevi shtei saros, ein oisem by ma'isa lachzika kagadol ad sheyehi ben esrim, until he is 20. Tishnas esrim leben shmoina kishnas yud gimel l'shar b'nei adam. 8:20 for a kid who was born after 8 months is like 13 for everybody else. You hear this? That means a kid born after 8 months is not a gadol until he's 20. He brought hairs, he brought the 2 pubic hairs. No, it's a shuma ba'alma, it's like a birthmark. You know, shuma ba'alma ufishu cholosh b'yoser. Says the Rajba, wait a second, this doesn't answer up all of our problems. Listen to this gavaldiga case. A guy got married within 20 years, or a woman who was born after 8 months got married within 18 years. And then she received kedushin from someone else. Im pashta yada v'kibla kedushin me'achar nechesh l'sheni. She received kedushin from someone else. We should be choishesh. Maybe the first kedushin wasn't good because it's kedushay ketana. So I would say, then the second kedushin is not good either. I don't really understand what he's asking. Anyone understand the question? He's asking, then it comes out according to Rabbeinu Chananel, the Rajba, the Ritva, that if our whole sugya is saying that if somebody was born after 8 months, not that he's not a ben kayama, avada he's a ben kayama. The guy's fighting in the army, he's a ben kayama. It's that we can't establish him as a gadol until he turns 20, like a sris. So he says that then it comes out if he accepts kedushin from someone else after he's already married. No, like this. Sorry, I got the case. An 18-year-old guy marries a woman. He was born after 8 months. And then she decides to get married to somebody else. We should be choshesh for the second kedushin. But she's married to the first guy. We don't know. Maybe the first guy's a katan and his kedushin is not a kedushin. That's the question of the Rashba. Meaning, if this sugya is saying that if someone is born after 8 months, we cannot determine that they're a gadol until they turn age 20, then if she got married to a guy like that and then she accepted kedushin from someone else, we should be choshesh for the second kedushin. Also, he asks, a 19-year-old, even if he brings simanim, he should not be able to do chalitza. Because he's a katan. So the Rashba says, Mustaber Rabbi Avo only meant this if you know that he's 8 months. But Shar b'nei Adam, min astam ein machzikin oisa b'nefalim. In other words, this chash will only apply someone who you know for certain was born after 8 months. But in other words, because technically you could ask that this is going to throw a major curveball into any kedushin. Because anytime a man marries a woman, potentially we should be choshesh. Maybe it's not a good kedushin because maybe he's a nefel. Yeah, I don't know why the Rashi was even bringing in nefalim, because the chash here is not being a nefel. I thought we're dismissing Rashi that you're possibly a nefel. The question is maybe you're a katan. Oh, that's what he's saying. He's saying he disagrees with Rashi. We're not choishesh someone as a nefel. Like we say later on, roiv nashim esabres v'yodes vlad shel kayama, and we assume that they're healthy. And we assume they're godless when they're 13. But, says the Raja, when the kid is born at 8 months old, that's where there's a machlokes Rabbi and the Rabbanan. That the Rabbanan hold that even though they're goymer simanei tziparnav, there's a nefel. They are a nefel. For sure a nefel. And Rebbe holds that no, maybe they just hung out in the womb and will wait until 20 years old. So that's the machlokes between Rashi and the Rashba. Rashi learns the chash is that if someone is born after 8 months, maybe they're a nefel. So Rashi says, no, that's not the chash. The chash is maybe they're a katan. Someone who's born after 8 months, we have to be choshesh. Maybe they're a katan until they are of 20 years old. Okay, that's the whole thing. So we have Tosfos. Tosfos says that according to Shitas, Rav, that nasa susul mafreya, it's not a violation of Hasroas Safeik. Why? Pnei Yeshua says because miman of shach, there's an isser. The shaila is only, the suffix only on the bar oinshin. And then regarding the simanei sris, that you have to be 20, Rashi says you have to be 20 to be extricated from the category of nefel, and the Rashba says to be extricated from the category of katan. Okay, everyone. Baruch v'atzlacha. Have a great day. I think tonight I have to do Pei Aleph, Amud Aleph. About 9:15, we'll send out a message. Okay. Have a good night. Have a good day. Kol tov. Bracha v'atzlacha.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.